Howdy YouTube, Eznix here with a video for you. Going to take a look at Ezarcher again. Hope you don't mind. And we're going to go over a couple of recent changes and additions that I've made. Primarily the inclusion now of Firewalld. Now, Firewalld is a firewall software package that is integrated with dbus, hence the D at the end of the name. And let's go over to their website here, Firewalld. So it was recently included in EndeavourOS, and that's why I selected it as well. I figured if the EndeavourOS developers deemed it to be a good package, that was good enough for me. So their website has full documentation. It has everything you need to get started using Firewalld. Now, for those of you like me who probably haven't run a firewall because didn't see a personal need, that's fine. By default, on the live ISO, the Firewalld service is not enabled. So that is something you need to do if you wanted to start using the Firewalld service. And it's something you need to do before you start the Firewalld configuration, which is a GUI application. There's full command line control over Firewalld as well as a nice GUI to work with. So let's take a look at that. Now, under System Administration, this is on the Mate desktop, and we'll go over another thing that's peculiar to my recent build of Mate as well. So before you start the firewall configuration program, you do need to enable the Firewalld service. Now that can be done in a number of ways. Let's go and open a terminal here, and I'll show you two ways to do it. Let's make this a bit bigger, easier to see. So you can certainly do sudo systemctl enable now Firewalld, and that command will enable and start the Firewalld service. You can also go to my EasyMate tool, and you do need to provide your password. And let's make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see. There we go. And a new addition to the EasyMate tool is option number 9. I just added it to the end of my menu, enable Firewalld service. And this will enable and start the service as well. So two methods to do that. Let's go ahead and just use my EasyMate tool. So we'll select number 9, and you can see the output, Firewalld service is enabled, and all of a sudden, we now have the Firewalld program applet visible. If you right-click on that, you can enable shields up, enable notifications, block all network traffic, edit the firewall settings, change zones, or configure shields up and down zones. So let's go and edit the firewall settings. This should bring up the program. And it will need to connect to the service, which requires authentication. And here you go. We are now in the GUI Firewalld configuration. The default zone is public. The only two services that are allowed are DHCP v6 client, and we scroll all the way down. SSH. So you can change that. If you read their documentation, you'll notice that the configuration is defaulting to runtime. Any changes you make happen immediately without restarting the service or without rebooting or relogging out and logging in. So if you want to make your changes permanent, you can do so. However, those permanent changes will take effect at the next login or the next, I think, reloading of the Firewalld service, which you, I believe, can do from here, reload Firewalld. So if you want to make a permanent change, you can do so without logging out and logging back in. You can change the default zones. You can choose block, DMZ, demilitarized zone, drop all connections, trusted if you're on a trusted home network, trusted work network. Let's see, what else? That's about it. You can go through the services. There's full configuration for ports, protocols, source ports, masquerading of ports, port forwarding, ICMP filtering, and rich rules, interfaces, sources. So a lot of control. So hopefully that will be appreciated by people who want a firewall service installed by default. You do have to enable, start the service, and then you'll have your firewall configuration to do. Hopefully that was clear. Now, on to a little thing that wound up getting forgotten in the Mate build. This only affects the Mate ISO. It is the fact that I forgot to include a web browser. Yes, when I edited the packages list file used to build the ISO, I put in Firewalld and inadvertently deleted Firefox. I know. On the XFCE, the KDE, and the Cinnamon build, you do have the Firefox browser. On the Mate build, we don't. Now, it's easy to remedy. You can, let's see, go to Packages if you want. And I would refresh the package list. And now we can search for Firefox. And there it is, standalone web browser. And you can install it like so, either from the GUI, or if you're not a GUI person, you can open up a terminal. Oh, I already had one, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Let's just use this terminal. Oh, it closed. Okay, we'll open up another terminal. And you can just run your sudo pacman. Now this is the first time I'm running pacman to install anything. So I'd probably want to do this at the terminal and in the process, oops, there we go. In the process, run an update as well. You can do this when you install software. Actually, it's probably a good idea to run an update either right before or during installation of software. And you can see there are a lot of updates. Now, this is tempting me to rebuild all the ISOs yet again, but I'm going to hold off. If you download the Mate edition, go ahead, install your own browser, run your updates, you'll be fine. However, in the live edition, you won't have a browser. by default. I know. Luckily, the Mate edition is the least popular of the 4 that I provide. So I'm not too worried about it until the next rebuilding of all the ISOs. Now, the reason I'm going to wait just a little bit is there are a couple of very important updates that have come down here. Primarily, Boost has gotten an update, and let's see, ICU, and almost more important than Boost, ICU has gotten an update. Now, when ICU and Boost get updated, usually about 300 other packages will need to get recompiled against the new versions of those 2 packages. Because those 2 packages, ICU and Boost, provide a lot of libraries used in compiling other software. Now I'm going to give it a few more days, probably, maybe mid next week. Probably do another respin of the ISOs to catch all the updated software that was caused by the ICU and the Boost updates. One thing in particular that depends on ICU and Boost is Calamares. So I'd have to recompile Calamares against the new ICU and Boost libraries anyway. I just released the ISOs on the 15th yet again, and that release was really to clean up the install guides, make sure Firewall D was included, make sure NF tables, IP tables -nft were included, so Firewall D would work with the newer version of IP tables, things like that. And I also made sure that all of the desktop customizations for Mate, Cinnamon, and XFCE made it into the build templates provided on the ISOs. So we're going to let these ISOs sit for a few days, another week maybe, and then I'll rebuild them all when Boost and ICU have had a chance, well, when the Arch package maintainers have had a chance to rebuild all of the dependencies on ICU and Boost. Another reason I'm waiting is even though Boost got updated this time, just yesterday, I believe, it's already out of date. Boost 1.79 was just released on the 14th or 15th of April. So if the Arch developers get around to updating Boost again, it's going to cause another whole slew of updates down the line to other packages. So we're going to hold off a little bit on ISO spinning. Now I'm not going to install Firefox because I don't want to do a partial upgrade or install a package without upgrading the whole system. And in this live environment, I don't really see a point in doing that right now. But this is how you would do it. So let's just say no here and get out of that. And that was about it. That was about the only things I wanted to cover in this little update video. So we have to go back to my host system. Let's go over to SourceForge. Let's look for Ezarcher. And you can see my last update was 18 hours ago. So I really have no desire to respin these again right now. These are getting downloaded. That's cool. Be aware of the Mate desktop, all the little gotcha with the missing a web browser is noted. The build templates are all up to date, but as I said, with the updates of ICU and Boost, Calamares is going to be needed to be recompiled yet again. So if you want to build from my templates, you'll probably have to, oh, let's go over here. We'll do this. We'll go through this quickly too. We're not going to rebuild here, but I'll show you something. So if you grab one of my templates that's on the ISO or from the web, let's just take Cinnamon. So the way you do this is you'd copy the template over to your home folder. You'd extract it here. And then you have your, okay, I didn't give it long enough. Come on. There we go. So why did it create that folder? Reload. There we go. Okay, I was moving too quickly for the file manager. Didn't let it do its thing. Okay, I have to re-get to the thought I was going for. When you're rebuilding, yes, when you're rebuilding an ISO here, not only do you need the template, if you're rebuilding, you will also need to recompile Calamares. So you have your template file here, and in that you have etc, you have the Calamares configuration. You don't need to touch that, but you do need to go back into my documentation folder, go over to package builds, come over here to Calamares, and open in terminal and run a make pkg and rebuild Calamares. Once you've rebuilt Calamares, you then have to put that new package in the local repo, rebuild the local repo files, and then you're good to go. I know it's a bit of work, but it only happens when like major dependencies like ICU and boost happen. So unpredictable. I wish it didn't happen a day after I released the ISOs, but it does. So just so you know, most people I don't think build their own. However, my entire system is made to make it easy to do that. I know all of this doesn't sound that easy. However, it really is once you get started. You really need to get used to having to rebuild Calamares when its dependencies get updated. Now, what I'll probably do is I will probably do all this for you and put it out and re-release the template files, update those. So you can just download the new template file you want instead of using the one on the ISO. Hopefully that's all clear. So enjoy, take care, stay safe. You'll see me in another video, folks. Bye-bye.